And a very good afternoon. How is everybody this afternoon? Chorus, how are you? How's Beth? I hope all is well. MC, how are you? What's good? Uh, Cynthia always has my back. Wyoming, as always, our favorite gal. I retitled this Conman's Toolbox. I was just going to talk about brainwashing, but then I thought about it and I thought, well, I did make a video on psychological grifters and guilt tripping, so why not just put that all in one show? Oh, I'm glad to hear it, Karis. I'm glad to hear it. I hope everything's going to be okay. I do. Any help that you need, just let me know. So where do we want to start first? Let me see. How about the psychology of grifting? Okay, let's start with that one.
The psychology of a grifter involves understanding the mindset and traits that enable someone to manipulate others for personal gain. Key aspects include manipulativeness. Grifters often possess strong skills in deception and persuasion, exploiting trust and emotions. Lack of empathy. They may have limited concern for the feelings or well-being of others, focusing instead on their own. Narcissism. A sense of superiority, entitlement, or a desire for admiration can drive their behavior. Impulsivity. Some grifters act impulsively, seeking immediate gratification without considering long-term consequences. Confidence and charisma. They often appear charming and confident, which helps in convincing others to believe their false narratives. Lack of guilt or remorse. They might rationalize their actions or avoid feelings of guilt. Adaptability. Skilled grifters can read situations and adjust their tactics to maximize success. Desperation or socioeconomic factors. Sometimes their background or circumstances contribute to their propensity for such behavior.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it? Scott, I'm so glad you could join us, and thank you so much for that email. And I apologize on the emails. I'm trying to catch up. I swear I'm trying to catch up. Psychology of a grifter. That's it in a nutshell, right? What can we take away from that? And why do people grift? And why do we have con men? Or con women, right? Doesn't matter what their sex is. Why do they do it? Is it just easy for them? Or what do you think the reason is? Because I'm trying to figure this out. Why can't people simply do what's right in life instead of taking advantage of other people? That's what I have trouble with in my mind. I don't know why people have to take advantage of other people. I've never understood it, but some people live that way. Let's go to the brainwashing next here.
Brainwashing. In today's world, we see many people so brainwashed that they may seem completely disconnected from reality. They believe the unbelievable, defend the indefensible, and reject even the most obvious truths. But how does someone get to this point? What exactly is brainwashing, and what are the practical steps that make such a radical transformation possible? Brainwashing isn't just an idea from dystopian fiction. It's one of the most powerful and effective psychological manipulations in history, and the terrifying part is, no one is truly immune to it. One of the most chilling real-world examples is the Jonestown Massacre in 1978. Over 900 people, including children, died after drinking cyanide-laced punch under the orders of cult leader Jim Jones. This wasn't a group of people who suddenly decided to follow a madman. They were conditioned step by step until their critical thinking was completely overridden. They truly believed they were making their own choices. That's the power of brainwashing. It doesn't force you to change it, makes you want to. So how does it actually happen? It follows a pattern: isolation, destabilization, indoctrination, and reinforcement. A process so effective that once it takes hold, escaping feels impossible. The first step is isolation. When you control the information someone has access to, you control their perception of reality. Jim Jones did this by moving his followers to a remote compound in Guyana, cutting them off from outside influences in everyday life. This happens in media, bubbles, extremist groups, and even in toxic relationships, where only one perspective is constantly reinforced. The more someone's worldview is shaped by a single source, the less they question it. Next comes destabilization, breaking down a person's mental defenses. This is done through exhaustion, fear, and confusion. Cults use long sermons, erratic punishments, and emotional breakdowns. Governments use constant crisis narratives, making people feel like the world is too chaotic to understand without their guidance. The more mentally drained someone becomes, the more they rely on the manipulator to make sense of things for them. Then comes indoctrination.
I just want to pause for a minute. Can everybody hear this? Is the internet spinning? It's not on my end, but I want to make sure. So let me know in the chat. Somebody just text me and yes, you can hear it, Cars? Okay. 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 Must have been. Okay. Alrighty. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, let's continue on. Sorry to interrupt. I hear and see it fine. Okay. Thank you very much. Ragin! Our favorite Cajun. I knew you were in a tree.
Implanting new beliefs. The key here is reward and punishment cycles. If you conform, you're praised. If you question, you're punished. In cults, doubting the leader means exile. In real-life questioning, certain ideologies can get you socially ostracized. Over time, this conditioning rewires the brain, making the new belief feel natural, even when it was forced upon you. Finally, there's reinforcement. Once brainwashing is complete, the new identity is constantly reinforced through rituals, groupthink, and identity-based. Loyalty people stop questioning because their beliefs are now tied to their sense of self. They don't feel brainwashed, they feel enlightened, and that's the scariest part. Brainwashing doesn't feel like brainwashing when it's happening to you. It feels like truth. That's why people stay in abusive groups, fall for mass manipulation, and follow ideologies to extremes without ever questioning them. So how do you protect yourself? The first step is awareness. Brainwashing works by making critical thinking feel unnecessary or even dangerous the moment you feel pressured, not to question something that's a red flag. The second step is exposure to multiple perspectives. If you only ever hear one side of a story, you are being controlled, even if you don't realize it. And the third step is to pay attention to emotional manipulation, fear, guilt, and outrage. These are the tools used to override logic. Whenever your emotions are being used to shape your beliefs, stop and ask yourself, who benefits from me thinking this way? Because once your mind is rewritten, you won't even realize it happened.
Oh, that could be Cynthia. That could be. So I want to take this step by step because I think we can all relate to this, right? So let's take this one step by step, brainwashing, okay?
Brainwashing. In today's world, we see many people so brainwashed that they may seem completely disconnected from reality.
Okay, hey, plant lady, I'm so glad you could join us. Disconnected from reality. What is reality? That's an interesting question, right? What do we perceive as reality? Oh, I do have some good news. Dr. Knock and I, I'm sorry, Arlene and I were discussing what our next topic was going to be. We want to talk about consciousness and reality. And we also want to talk about trauma and the effects on the brain. So that's going to be our next discussion. I think the first one is going to be trauma and the effects on the brain, because there's different levels of trauma, right? There could be soft, not so PTSD-ish trauma. And then you can have full-blown trauma, which is very devastating to the brain. So I think that's going to be our next talk. But let's continue on here.
They believe the unbelievable, defend the indefensible, and reject even the most obvious truths. But how does someone get to this point?
Yeah, so knowing a known liar, okay, that's very provable, and is proved to be a liar constantly. Why would anybody fall into that trap? Why would anybody continuously believe in that lie? What makes their brain trust and believe, even though it's the most outrageous lie that is provable? Why would people believe that, right?
What exactly is brainwashing, and what are the practical steps that make such a radical transformation possible? Brainwashing isn't just an idea from dystopian fiction. It's one of the most powerful and effective psychological manipulations in history. And the terrifying part is, no one is truly immune to it.
Yeah, nobody is immune to it, right? We hear on the news, say you watch CNN constantly, and they say the same thing over and over and over and over. Or you watch Fox News, where they say the same thing over and over and over. Who are you going to believe if you don't look at both sides? Oh, very good, Ragin. I'm glad you're going to like that. Because they seemed genuine at the time. Yeah, that's right, Karis. And how do they fall into the trap when they know this person is lying, but they want to believe so badly anyways? You know?
One of the most chilling real-world examples is the Jonestown Massacre in 1978.
Yeah.
Over 900 people, including children, died after drinking cyanide-laced punch under the orders of cult leader Jim Jones. This wasn't a group of people who suddenly decided to follow a madman. They were conditioned step by step until their critical thinking was completely overridden. They truly believed they were making their own choices. That's the power of brainwashing.
Yeah, and we all know Jim Jones, right? And what happened. How did all of these people... how many people actually passed during that time? Over 1,000, wasn't it? Over 1,000 people. And, parents were feeding their children this Kool-Aid. Yeah, Kool-Aid. Well, yeah, it was Kool-Aid laced with cyanide, right? But how did these parents get to the point where they thought it was better to feed their children this and have their children pass? Wyoming, I'm not that old. A lot of people watch C-SPAN or PBS for their news in order to get non-entertainment focused and sensationalized approach to the news. Yeah. And But a lot of people don't, too, right, Scott? A lot of people just stick to one channel. Now, I used to watch CNN all the time when I was younger because they were unbiased and they, just told the news. But as time goes by, and it's the same thing for Fox News or any of these outlets, right? MSNBC. They only have one side. It's like, okay, so say Trump's bad, Trump is good. You got CNN, Trump is bad, Fox, Trump is good. So where's that happy medium? Oh, News Nation. Yeah. Hey, TK times 3. I'm glad you could join us. Um, so where do we... I don't watch the news anymore. Jiminy crickets. It's something else. It's the same in every country. In Thailand, they have a channel for the yellow shirts and a channel for the red shirts. Yeah, isn't it? But how do we fall into that? How do we fall into this channel is believable and this isn't? You Wyoming Gal says News Nation is better. Yeah, yeah. It's it's weird how it impacts the brain and our thinking and our belief system, right? Hey Dave, so good to see you. How are you today? Okay, let's take it a little bit more. Yeah, you don't watch it anymore, Plant Lady? Yeah. Yeah, it's most news stations are biased.
It doesn't force you to change it, makes you want to. So how does it actually happen? It follows a pattern: isolation, destabilization, indoctrination, and reinforcement.
Hmm. Those are four pretty extreme things. But they happen subtly, right? Hmm?
A process so effective that once it takes hold, escaping feels impossible. The first step is isolation. When you control the information someone has access to, you control their perception of reality.
Yeah, and I think we just discussed that with news channels, right? Or if a YouTube channel says, don't watch this person, uh, because you'll get a different perspective. Well, they don't say it like that. Don't watch this person because they're going to just tell lies and this is not the truth. And you know what I'm saying? Um, it happens in every corner of life. You don't either, Cars? Yeah, it's crazy. And it actually trains your brain to think a different way. And it's dangerous because if you cannot center yourself and say, okay, I'm going to listen to this channel and see what it's all about, even if I don't like it, at least I can get another perspective. Because both sides lie, okay? And the truth is always in the middle, right? You know what I'm saying?
Jim Jones did this by moving his followers to a remote compound in Guyana, cutting them off from outside influences in everyday life. This happens in media, bubbles, extremist groups, and even in toxic relationships, where only one perspective is constantly reinforced. The more someone's worldview is shaped by a single source, the less they question it.
Yeah, and that's how the brain works, right? If you're only fed one side of the story, then that's what your brain is going to believe. It's like the algorithm, right? You watch something and the algorithm is going to pick that up and all it's going to show is what you just watched. So, say you want to know about, well, I won't use Charlie Kirk because that's everywhere. Uh, Talk about Zelensky, say. It, all of a sudden, the algorithm is going to pick that up and only show you stuff about Zelensky, right? Of course, we watch YouTube for Ohio State football. Yeah. Aw, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Minion's good. Shay's good. Um, On the Q. Berg. Shout out to Berg. Choose Compassion. Um, Lady Luck Club. Everybody has something to contribute, right? And just because they have a different opinion than yours doesn't mean it's bad. But the algorithm picks up on what you just watched and wants to feed you more and more and more of that. So your brain gets trained to believe, well, it must be true because look at all this information. Jim Jones' illustration of isolation is a bit simplified. It is. It is, Scott. And that's an extreme case, right? I think it was a gradual process of getting folks in his congregation to pick up and move to Guyana and forfeit their assets. And that's exactly what he did. And what about using God as a way to receive money? You know, it's like that preacher, close the doors, right? Close the doors. 20,000 people, what, $20? Or was it 10,000 people? I can't remember how many people were in there. They prey on people with lowest self-esteem. Yeah, and how do we raise that self-esteem? That's what I'm going to do on this channel. Make people think about what they believe and their belief system. You know, Cynthia says right now Chicago news is dominated by ICE and the National Guard stuff. Yeah, and not on the real issues plaguing Chicago, like crime. Why would a group of people protest against getting criminals off the streets? Why would they do that? I'm not for ICE. I'm not against ICE. This is not that kind of a discussion. But I want to hear your thoughts about it. You know, is it the federal government interfering with local politics, right? These are all touchy subjects, and people go ballistic over them. But why can't people have conversations back and forth? Why can't people just sit down and talk to each other instead of screaming at each other? Rajan says, Cynthia, my location on my phone was in Chicago the other day. I wonder why. I don't know. Yes, TK, it is crazy. It's crazy. Cynthia's talking about network TV, yeah. Somebody is paying them because why aren't they doing it here? Ah, yep. The, excuse me, the big complaint is, well, they're not doing it in red states. Is that true? I don't know, so I'm asking. Is it really true that red states do not have ICE in there? Or is it that the police are actually helping ICE in red states? I'm just trying to make people think, okay? Instead of hearing all the hype, has anybody actually sat down and done the research? I have not. I'll be perfectly honest. I haven't. I'm asking these questions. Scott says, I think It's more telling where they're not sending ICE. Rich, affluent communities and subdivision. Absolutely, Scott. And why is that? Why is that? Why wouldn't they send ICE there? Right? Because rich people, um, okay, let's take this. Saratoga racetrack, okay? They hire a lot of illegal immigrants, right? And I believe it was this summer or last summer, they had a raid at one of the most prestigious horse racing tracks in the country, Saratoga Racetrack. And they arrested them. It doesn't happen very often, but they did it. Cars. We are Democrats. I was born on the West Side. Crime in Chicago is aggregated. Per capita, they are not in the top 10. Columbus, per capita crime is higher. Reagan says, how about the cop ICE arrested that was an illegal citizen in Illinois? Seriously? How do you have a police officer that's an illegal immigrant? Don't you have to have documents and all that stuff? And don't you have to go through the academy? How can that even happen? They're also arresting citizens, said Karas. Where are they arresting legal citizens? Scott says, yes, Karas, when they nabbed that. Oh, I saw that. The WGN reporter earlier this week. I saw that, Scott. But why did they arrest her? That's the question. Why did they arrest her? And was it ICE? Was it Border Patrol? Was it the police? Who arrested her? And I think this is important to talk about. And I'm glad we're having this calm conversation. Because these are topics that just send people to the moon, right? Memphis has the worst crime, but they are cooperating with the feds, says Wyoming. They are targeting brown-skinned people. Well, let's talk about that, okay? Most of the illegals have come up through Mexico, right? And let's settle, okay. This is not about who's right and who's wrong. We're just having this conversation. A calm conversation. So, most of the illegals came in from Mexico, right? Well, we still have illegals coming in from Canada, right? So why are they only focusing on black and brown? But I want to get back to the issue of that WGN reporter. Well, she wasn't a reporter, okay? She was not a reporter. She worked in graphic arts or something along that line. Was she interfering with what was happening? Okay. But why are they targeting brown-skinned people? Wyoming gal says, they said she threw something at an officer's car. WGN reporter was off duty and her ass wouldn't get out of their way. But she wasn't a reporter. She was not a reporter. She worked for WGN. But she worked in, I think it was graphic arts or something along that line. And I think it's important to get the facts out, right? But why are they targeting brown skin, like Karis and Scott are talking about, and the WGN uh, person, because she was not a reporter, okay? Supposedly, Illinois State Police were staged near the Thornton Township building this week. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why. I wonder why they were staged around there. Did they need extra security or something? Um, TK times 3 says it's mostly Mexicans. Well, they come through Mexico, right? However, they come from different countries. They come from China. They come from Nicaragua. All of these other countries, they come through Mexico. Okay? So they have caught a lot of Chinese people as well. But nobody's talking about the Chinese, right? And I really want to have this conversation because I think it's important. How our minds are taught to think only a certain way. Okay, I'm not being verbatim. Trump and Pritzker hate each other, Cynthia says. Reagan, Conscious, you are exactly right. 95% of the reports are incorrectly reported. How do we know, Reagan? How do we know they're incorrectly reported? Carr says, look at this country's history with race. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay, my background is Irish. Okay, I'm white. Okay, I do not understand a lot of the plight with the black community. I just don't, and I'm being honest about it. But let's talk about Uncle Tom. Okay, there's something about Uncle Tom where, well, you're an Uncle Tom, like it's a bad thing. But if we want to talk about history, Uncle Tom was actually a hero to the slaves, right? And where did slavery begin? Where did slavery begin? Because I think these are important issues. And how our brain develops into our beliefs, right? Wyoming Gal says they come from Africa through Mexico. Oh, you mean from China? Karis, I'm African American, Beth is Caucasian and Jewish. Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it, Karis? It's so interesting to get people's ideas and to be able to talk about it and say, no, this is what's happening. We can see it on full display, right? The one thing that news stations tend to do is only show part of videos. But if you go to YouTube, you can see the entire thing playing out, like in Portland, right? And I think that's where that WGN woman was arrested. But you can see the whole thing playing out by people actually on the ground, YouTubers on the ground, recording everything, right? I know it's a hard subject to talk about, and I'm not on either side. I just want to understand how our brains are trained for one belief. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Carr said it's Sambo that is bad. One Uncle Tom is not. Yeah, Uncle Tom was not bad. Was not bad. But I'm trying to get people to think. And, you know, people have strong beliefs, right? And, you know, and yes, they are targeting brown skinned people. That is a fact. You can't deny it. And like Scott said, you know, they're targeting uh, black communities. Let's just face it. Black and brown communities are being targeted by ICE. It's a fact. They're not targeting affluent neighborhoods, like Scott said, right? So why is this happening? Wyoming Gale says, I've been watching live streams from Portland. I live 2 hours south of Portland. It's very scary, isn't it? TK times three. They don't know these neighborhoods like that. Which neighborhoods? Which ones? You know, if we can't talk about how we feel and just shut ourselves off from opinions and beliefs, then we've lost. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. We have lost. Cynthia says years ago Dalton had a Sambo's restaurant. Of course, a lot of it is the environment they grew up in. That's, oh, Karis, that is such profound. For example, Beth's family is lifelong Democrats. Her grandparents got invited to the White House by President Clinton. Wow, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. TK says all of them. Yeah, and Scott has excellent points. Wyoming has excellent points. Rajan, Cynthia, Karis, TK. We all have good points, right? But if we shut ourselves off, if we shut down our brains and not listen, how can we fix any of the problems? Well, we personally can't fix them, right? Rajan says, Scott, exactly. The sanctuary cities. Why did they have sanctuary cities? Can anybody tell me that? You know, I'm not trying to get anybody riled up. I'm honestly not. I'm trying to get people to think, you know. United we stand, divided we fall. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, thank you, TK. Exactly, Carter's. And if we can't listen to each other, what's the point? Okay, let's play a little bit more of this here.
Next comes destabilization, breaking down a person's mental defenses. This is done through exhaustion, fear, and confusion. Cults use long sermons, erratic punishments, and emotional breakdowns. Governments use
Well, let's take Beth, for instance, right? Beth, a true believer in INA. We're going to use that as an example. She says one wrong thing, and Beth is kicked to the curb, and now everybody talks about Beth like she's some kind of demon, right? Why? Scott says that way they up moving both groups out of the way so that the desirable folks can be brought in. Yes, Scott. It is sad. It's so sad that this entire country is being manipulated. And I believe we are. But if, you know, lowly folks like ourselves, no, no shame, you know, we can't make decisions in the White House, right? Well, maybe some of you can. I don't know. But we are under the control of the government. We might call ourselves a free country, but are we really a free country? That's a good point, Scott. Wyoming says my state is not responding to subpoenas. Carr says, look at I cannot say that word. Some words I can't say. It's really weird. And Cynthia, God bless her, always has my back. She types it out so well to me. It's a flaw of mine. I admit it. Gender, gentrification. Cynthia, text me and how to say that word. I know what it means. However, in the large cities, yeah, cars. Is it just large cities? Or is it the rural communities? Okay, let's take my community. Okay, very rural. Okay, we have a small village. And I'll tell you flat out. I was on the front porch, and this guy, on one of those scooters that, you use to get around the house. What do they call those? He was going down the road with his dog, and I looked on the back of it. He had a red rebel flag on the back of his scooter. A rebel flag. Why? And I'm looking at him, but by the time I realized it, by the time my brain processed that, it was like, I'm going to say it, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why would this old guy have a rebel license plate on his scooter riding down the road with his dog? To me, that's just despicable. But why does he think that way? TK says, I lost you, TK. I don't see anything wrong with putting a Whole Foods in the hood. Whole Foods is overrated, Wyoming says. I don't know what Whole Foods is. We don't have one. Reagan, if you and hide your salary in a... Oh, the bill. Yes. Napoleon Harris. How in the hell can we know what they're doing? They hide stuff in bills all the time, right? Right? They do. They do it constantly. On the federal level, on the state level. Yeah, it's just stupid. It's just... so what is... That's their school mascot. I have no idea. I was thoroughly disgusted. And I kept waiting for him to come back up because I wanted to say something to him, right? What is wrong with you? Do you know what that represents? Don't you remember the Civil War? The rural farming communities that relied on USDA loans are screwed. Oh, the farms will go into receivership and large corporations who have wealthy government shareholders will buy the land, cheap produce, food. Yeah, I think that's true, Scott. I think that's true. But I want to be perfectly honest. I mean, I can't believe that this old white guy thought it was okay to have a rebel flag uh, plate. It wasn't a license plate, right? Just a plate uh, of the rebel flag. I don't get it. I don't get it. If I see him again, I'm going to knock him off his scooter. Or maybe pellet gun might work. But why would he think that's okay? They don't have the same definition about the rebel flag. I asked someone about it once. Oh, are there different definitions? Okay, see, I don't know that. Scott says, and they will sell it at record profits. Yeah, it's for the rich, right? America is for the rich, the haves and the have-nots. And how did we get this way, or was it always this way? George Washington, a lot of slaves, and yet he's heralded as, what, the father of the country, George Washington? But he had a lot of slaves. He did. Most of the founding fathers were slave owners. But let's take it a step further. There were also black slave owners, which is true. I looked it up. Scott says, we'll sell the food for record profit. Yes. Cheap products sold for, I mean, the grocery stores are absolutely ridiculous. Sorry about the traffic. I got my window open. Raging, thank you. It doesn't just like any other. I want to look that up. The rebel flag. I think Douglas was talking to me about that once. But you see the rebel flag and you just think the worst, right? So I'll have to look into that. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. Because if we don't learn, what's it all about? What's life all about? Region says prescriptions, health insurance. Yeah. I mean, Canada prescriptions are so much cheaper for the same stuff. Why is America so expensive? Why we all have to pay differently. Yeah, that's discrimination, right? Am I right or wrong? I think discrimination is different for different people. Low income people and rich, famous people. Carr says, what makes us different with slaves is how we were treated. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. It's a touchy subject. But if we don't talk about it on a level of intelligence, how can we learn what the other person is thinking and feeling? I could say something that would hurt somebody's feelings that I didn't even know I would. Because I have to learn that. And I think that goes for all of us. Wyoming says the founding fathers were against slavery, even though they owned them. So why did they own slaves? Right? Why? They spoke about many times in the early development of our country. Yeah, so why was it okay for them to own slaves, but they were against slavery? Carr says pharma is a big business. Yeah, what about the lobbyists, right? That work in the background for these big corporations. Look at Elon Musk. He could buy the world 10 times over, right? Many of my family go to the pharmacies in Mexico for medication. Oh. Cheap labor, says Karis, yeah. Scott says it was allowed as whites believed that free blacks who owned slaves were less likely than non-slave owning free blacks to encourage slave rebellion and thus were less threatening to society. Look at that. It really warms my heart that we can actually have a conversation about this and actually learn about people's opinions and how it affects our brain. How does society, how does history affect our brains, our thinking? What we watch on social media affects how our brain is structured, because our brain is always changing, growing. It always is. Wyoming says, I think the economics at the time of early America couldn't handle not having slaves. Well, why did they have slaves to begin with? Why didn't they just pay people? Right? Why? It's just, slavery boggles my mind. And especially the way the slaves were treated. Right? Scott says, I watch a lot of Ken Burns and read the works of the historians featured. Ken Burns. I'm going to write that down, Scott. As soon as I find my pen. There it is over there. What are you doing away over there? You should know better. Ken Burns. Thank you, Scott. And, you know, for the black and brown communities, slavery is one of the things that hits home, isn't it? It really angers people, right? It might, and I don't want to offend anybody, but it's true. Slavery in America was horrible, horrific. Just because you had a nice slave owner, doesn't make it okay? No. Raging. Curse, my great-great-great-grandparents were sharecroppers picking cotton for the white men. They never owned anything. I was fortunate to get a door from... Oh, Raging, you showed me that door. Yes. And I think Cynthia is going to... Yep. Gentrification. Thank you, Cynthia. See, Cynthia types it out in small little things so I can actually read the word. Because some words I just... There was another word, Cynthia, that I just absolutely couldn't pronounce. I think we were having a meeting one time. Okay, let's continue a little bit.
Use constant crisis narratives, making people feel like the world is too chaotic to understand without their guidance. The more mentally drained someone becomes, the more they rely on the manipulator to make sense of things for them. Then comes indoctrination, implanting new beliefs. The key here is reward and punishment cycles. If you conform, you're praised. If you question, you're punished. In cults, doubting the leader means exile.
Doubting the leader means exile. Who wants to be exiled? You know, like if you're with a group of friends and you have, say you're having a dinner party, okay? And everybody in that dinner party believes in just one thing, and you question that. Do you feel awkward for questioning your friends on why they believe something? Wyoming says, yeah, I'll send her the picture, Raging. Wyoming says they had a deal that slavery would end in 1834, but not all states were cooperating. No, and it it wasn't a clear cut free the slaves, right? It wasn't. Of course, my mom worked with the health department for the state for 30 years. Scott says Ken Burns is a documentary filmmaker who makes documentaries for PBS. He just released one regarding the Civil War. Previously did one on Vietnam and the Roosevelts. Wow, and the Dust Bowl. Who remembers the Dust Bowl? Oh, that's fab. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. After this live stream, I'm going to look him up. Cars is customer service for Delaware Medicaid. I am so sorry. Is the mental health what do you even call it? It's not an organization. Is it set up to help people? Are doctors really helping people? I'm just throwing stuff out here. Love Ken Burns documentaries on baseball. Ooh. Hydro Quebec. Hi, French. Jazz was amazing. I love jazz. I love all kinds of music. I really... not the Civil War, Revolutionary War, says Cynthia. Thank you, Cynthia. Did I say Civil War? Sorry. Ken Burns did a great one on Lewis and Clark. Oh my gosh. Lewis and Clark. Was Lewis and Clark honest men? Does anybody know? I don't know. And I love history. Absolutely. Oh, Scott, thank you for Star Trek. I love it. I absolutely love it, and you were right. I am a Star Trekker. I'm a Trekker. I love Star Trek. From the very first episode. Wyoming says, my grandparents went to California from Oklahoma during that Dust Bowl. Oh my gosh. Scott says, but he did do the Civil War back in the early 90s. And I misspoke. I said Civil War when I meant Revolutionary War. Ragin says, I'm sitting on a Civil War site as we speak. That's right, Ragin. You are. Yeah, Scott, it's amazing. Oh yeah. Con. I would have never found it if you hadn't have said something about it. I appreciate it immensely. Douglas, I came in to say God bless and hello to everybody. Well, I hope you stay, Douglas. I know we're going to have a talk later, I hope. I keep missing you. I'm sorry, Douglas. I miss you. And I hope we can talk later. I hope. Okay. I appreciate this, everybody, because we all have different opinions. We all have different ideas. But where do we actually get them from? And who is feeding it to us, right? Okay, let's continue on.
Real life questioning. Certain ideologies can get you socially ostracized. Over time, this conditioning rewires the brain, making the new belief feel natural, even when it was forced upon you. Finally, there's reinforcement. Once brainwashing is complete, the new identity is constantly reinforced through rituals, groupthink, and identity-based. Loyalty people stop questioning because their beliefs are now tied to their sense of self. They don't feel brainwashed, they feel enlightened, and that's the scariest part.
That is the scariest part. And it comes back to my thought. What if you're at a dinner party and all of your friends are saying one thing and you're saying, that doesn't seem right? Are you going to say to all of your friends, that doesn't seem right? Or are you going to be quiet? Are you going to be afraid to speak your opinion? Be honest. Be very honest with yourself. Picture yourself at a dinner party. All of your friends and loved ones are there, and they are saying the same thing, but you have a different idea. Are you going to question them? It's something to think about. Are you going to be afraid to state your opinion because people are going to look at you like you're out of your mind and say, but if you're thinking that way, you can get the hell out, right? Or are you going to state your opinion anyways? Even though you know what's going to happen. People are going to yell at you and say, how could you think that way? When you're just asking an honest question. You know, depends on how good of the friends you are. That's true. That's so true, Karis. That's so true. But if you think about it, are you going to be embarrassed to ask questions and have a thoughtful conversation like we're having here? Yeah, especially now. Okay.
Brainwashing doesn't feel like brainwashing when it's happening to you. It feels like truth. That's why people stay in abusive groups, fall for mass manipulation, and follow ideologies to extremes without ever questioning them. So how do you protect yourself? The first step is awareness. Brainwashing works by making critical thinking feel unnecessary or even dangerous the moment you feel pressured, not to question something that's a red flag. The second step is exposure to multiple perspectives. If you only ever hear one side of a story, you are being controlled, even if you don't realize it. And the third step is to pay attention to emotional manipulation, fear, guilt, and outrage. These are the tools used to override logic. Whenever your emotions are being used to shape your beliefs, stop and ask yourself, who benefits from me thinking this way? Because once your mind is rewritten, you won't even realize it happened.
Ah, that's so true. And it goes back to the dinner party. Now, Wyoming is being honest and saying, I would just stay quiet. So, that's being very honest. Because if you're in a group, now let's take a look at YouTube, okay? If you're on a channel, okay, and let's take this channel. If we are laughing at INA, okay, are we just, what if somebody says in the group, okay, in this chat, well, Jed did have a good point on this. How would you react? Or if you were a part of INA group and you question something, what would happen to you in that chat? And it goes back to the dinner party. Are you there just to please everybody, to fit in? And would you stand up and say, well, wait a minute, no, I don't agree with that. Why are you doing that? You know, and people just attack you for having an opinion. When people attack you for having your own opinion, you know that's not the place for you, right? Ragin says, I always say, If you want to hear the truth, then don't ask me. French says everybody's got a price. Cara says, Beth would speak up. I am the opposite. So Karis is being honest. Karis is being honest too. What would I do? What would I do? I would say, oh, well, yes, Cynthia. But, for this conversation, I think it's important to see differences, right? And thank you for bringing it up. But I think it's important for this conversation. If we only see one side, we're in trouble. If we speak up and we're ostracized for just having an opinion, you know that that place is not for you and you need to run, okay? Because if you can't state your own opinion in a conversation and not be attacked for it, if you state your opinion and you get attacked for it, for having a different opinion or a different view, that's not the place for you. And you need to run because you're being manipulated. And I like to use real world what's the word I'm trying to situations. Okay, so like when your brain is being rewired, you can't feel your brain, but some people can. Okay. And so when your brain is being rewired, like with multiplicity, okay, or say those pathways are being rewired, it's like bees, okay? Bees wording, rewiring the brain. So I like to use visual cues to bring about my point. Raging French says wrong is wrong. Raging says right is right. Curse, you too. So if right is right and wrong is wrong, is that the same thing? Car says Beth is in the 5% that would. Yes. And look at what has happened to Beth. And, we have to use that as an example of real life, right? And thank you so much, Cynthia. I appreciate it. But we have to use real life situations. So, Beth said, wait a minute, I don't believe this. And now look at what happened to Beth. Is that wrong for having a different opinion? Now she's a demon, right? Scott says it's like when someone would agree with something Tiffany said or question anything the trustees said, they would be immediately labeled and ostracized by many as being a Tiffany supporter. That is a perfect example, Scott. Thank you so much. Perfect example. Tiffany Henyard. You were either against her or with her, right? But you couldn't be both. You couldn't say, well, she did do this for the youth and the seniors, but the way she talked to people was extremely bad, right? Or you could say, well, the trustees showed all this paperwork, but did they? They flashed paperwork, but nobody ever saw it. And So this is this political battle on full scale for the world to see. Tiffany bad, Jason good. Tiffany bad, Napoleon good. And what is happening in these communities? Napoleon's not so good. Some people are even saying they wish they had Tiffany back, right? Raging. Selective outrage. That's so beautifully put. French says, well, in a cult, you have to follow the leader. Good point. A very good point. So, okay, let's take this Tiffany. You have two groups of people. Who is the leader in those two groups? Can anybody answer that? I want people to think today. And I want people to think, if they were at that dinner party, would they actually say something? Like Beth, being ostracized for having an opinion. You can disagree with me all day long. And we can have a discussion about it. Potato! Potato? My mother's gifts fell off the nightstand and she just went, "No, my babies! Oh, you poor little things! Oh," and she hugged them and put them back. She absolutely loves them. Absolutely loves them. She's like a little kid. The residents had elected Tiffany. We still haven't seen that engineer report or that email that Kiana flashed or that check Belcher flashed. That's true. That is why Jed was successful with recruiting those that were against Tiffany. Yeah, she actually did that, Potato. It was so funny. I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't record it, but I wanted to send you that so bad. But she absolutely loves it. Oh, and finally, she agreed to have, what do you call them? They help your hearing. Hearing aids. Finally. So they came in the mail today. I would tag you, but I'm on my phone. Oh, Raging's getting a Halloween llama. And, yeah, okay, so is making fun of somebody just in a joking matter okay? Or does it have to get to the extent where you have to demonize someone's children? Do you have to take it that far? And what kind of mentality is it? And yes, I'm going to bring up Shay and Grace. Is it okay to talk about somebody's kids? No, it's not. But what brings someone to that point? And I think we have to use real life issues, right? Halloween llama still not going to beat the llama. Potato, did you actually get that coffee cup? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. All right, so I do have... Show them the Halloween llama. Oh, it's on my phone. I'll have to share it with them later. Conscious, you're going to have to be careful now. Mama will hear all. Oh my gosh. You know, sometimes I play back my live streams to her, and she giggles and laughs at everybody's comments. And okay, I do have another one that I just made last night. It's called guilt tripping. So let's have a listen to that.
Guilt tripping. There's a way to control someone without force, without threats, without a single raised voice. You don't have to argue, persuade, or command. All you have to do is make them feel guilty. Guilt tripping and shame inducement are some of the most powerful psychological weapons capable of turning people into puppets without them ever realizing it. The victim believes they're acting out of free will, when in reality, their emotions are being manipulated like strings on a marionette. Think about it. How many times you have done something, not because you wanted to, but because you felt bad if you didn't. Maybe you agreed to a favor even though you were exhausted. Maybe you apologized for something that wasn't your fault. Maybe you stayed in a toxic relationship because leaving would make you feel like a terrible person. That's guilt tripping in action, and it's terrifyingly effective. The trick is simple. First, the manipulator plants the seed of guilt, subtly twisting reality to make the victim feel responsible for their suffering. A parent's eyes. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. A friend says, I guess I just don't matter to you anymore. A partner says, I sacrifice so much for this relationship, and you're just going to walk away. None of these statements directly tell the victim what to do. They don't have to. The guilt does all the work, but guilt alone isn't always enough. That's where shame inducement comes in. Guilt makes you feel bad about something you did. Shame makes you feel bad about who you are. It's not you forgot my birthday. It's you're a terrible friend. It's not you made a mistake at work. It's you're completely incompetent. When someone internalizes shame, they stop fighting back. They don't just feel like they did something wrong. They feel like they are wrong. And that is the ultimate form of control. Cult leaders, abusive partners, manipulative bosses, they all use this tactic to break people down, to make them easier to control. If you can convince someone that they are inherently flawed, that they owe you something, that they are never quite good enough, then they will spend their lives trying to prove otherwise. They will stay in situations they should leave, agree to things they don't want to, and chase approval that will never truly be given. But here's the scariest part. Guilt tripping doesn't just come from other people. We learn to do it to ourselves. We hear these voices so often that they become part of our own inner dialogue. I shouldn't say no, I should be a better person, I don't deserve to be happy. And once someone starts shaming themselves, the manipulation is complete. They no longer need anyone else to control them. So, how do you break free? The first step is recognizing the pattern. Ask yourself, are you doing something because you truly want to, or because you're afraid of being seen as selfish, ungrateful, or a disappointment? Are you accepting blame that isn't yours? Are you constantly trying to earn approval that keeps moving just out of reach? Once you start questioning the guilt, you strip it of its power, because the truth is, no one else gets to decide your worth. And the moment you stop playing their game, the spell is broken.
Oh, that's true, Karis. Abusive relationships, physical and psychological. And French says self-brainwashing. Absolutely correct. Who of us have not been, who have not felt guilty for saying no, or said yes even though we didn't want to do something because we don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings or feel guilty for not saying, oh, okay, I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you. How many people? I have yet said yes just because I haven't wanted to disappoint someone. I have also said no and felt so guilty about it that I thought about it for a week because I said no, I don't want to do that. I think we all have to be honest with each other and think about how our brains are wired and how our thoughts and beliefs are formed. Everybody's putting in ones. Yeah. It, it's just what we're exposed to, what we allow ourselves to be exposed to. You can make jokes about somebody and go on with your day. You know, you talk about someone's children, that's taking it to the extreme. Or if you talk about someone's mother's death, that is taking it to the extreme. When you do things like that, talk about children or parents, then all you want to do is hurt that person. And that's not somebody you want to be around. Period. And if you want to be around somebody like that, then you have some emotional growing to do. And you have to look at yourself and say, wait a minute, that's not okay. Okay? You have to confront that person and say, this is not okay. Yes, French, plain dirty. There are certain things that you should not do. And if you do them, then you should apologize and say, that was over the top and I'm sorry. But if that person is incapable of apologizing, and we can all agree on that, because a lot of us have apologized for a lot of things that we have said because we got caught up in the moment. But if an individual cannot say, I shouldn't have said that, I apologize, it's easy to do. But if that person cannot do that, you want to stay away from that person. Totally. Okay. I'm trying to read that name. It's a long name. I think it ends with J. What's happening here? Oh, we're discussing real life issues. We're discussing the brain. We're talking about brainwashing. Very interesting. A lot of how... And let me ask you this, Jay, because I can't prank... I'm sorry, I can't. Let me ask you this. If you were at a table with all your friends, they all had one opinion, and you wanted to question that, or you had a different opinion, would you say, wait a minute, why? Or would you just stay silent because you didn't want to be ridiculed or kicked out of the group? Wyoming's a middle child. I'm a peacemaker. I have a hard time saying no and causing waves. Yeah. Oh. The body shaming. Rage, that's a good point. Why would you, pick on somebody for their appearance? Why would that be? Well, welcome, Kathy. It's so good to see you. I wonder what kind of dog you have. I am an extreme animal lover. I love all animals. Even hogs, Region. Even though I eat bacon. What you're talking about resonates with me tremendously. And I hope it helps, Kathy. I do. And that's the danger of following one person. You can follow a person, but if you have a different opinion and you're ostracized for that, or you're in a relationship and you're afraid to state your opinion, should you stay in that relationship, and how do you leave that relationship, right? Pyrenees. Oh, Pyrenees. Oh, those are huge dogs. Akbash, Pyrenees. Half and half. Name us Aries. Pyrenees. Does anybody know what a Pyrenees looks like? I do. I've run across across a couple of them. They are huge. Um, I'm going to say J, 2011. You're just talking, I guess, so I'm not able to understand how you are brainwashing. I'm from, and I can't read that flag. Well, I've produced 3 videos, and now we're just having a discussion amongst the group, right? But I, you might want to look at psychological tricks, a playlist that I have on this channel. I'll be uploading all 3 of these videos on there, and there's some other videos too. I upload every day on psychological tricks. I love the brain and psychology. It's something I have a passion for. Um, oh, she's 140 pounds. I believe it, Kathy. Gosh. Well, what to do if it's a family member who does not apologize or even admit they were wrong? My soon-to-be 70-year-old brother. It, it's interesting, Kathy. I have a dear friend who is a psychiatrist. Her name is Arlene. We did, what we do is we tape offline and then I produce it on a live stream. So if you look at any live streams, and I did a introduction to Dr. Arlene Knock, okay? She just wants to be called Arlene. So if anytime you see Arlene in there, that is my dear friend, Dr. Knock, a very accomplished psychologist, knows the brain inside and out. And our next talk is going to be on trauma and how it affects the brain, which is very important because there's different levels of trauma, right? Um, your, your pet could pass, right? And that's very traumatic to you, but it might not be so traumatic to somebody else. Or you could have full-blown combat PTSD, like I know a couple of people do here in the chat. And that's very extreme, right? So we're going to talk about that. It'll probably be a few episodes. Arlene is a brilliant person, and she is beautiful on the inside as well as out. And she actually questions the medical and psychiatry of today's world and why they do the things they do. Yes, Raging has. Kathy, it took me 55 years to understand. It's not easy. No. Yeah. It it is. It's going to be really. Oh, thank you, Scott. The flag of India. Thank you very much. And welcome from India. But here we're going to learn about society and how society structures our brain, our beliefs. And I think it's very important. Yes, I agree, Ragin. Been dealing with it. But back in July, we got a huge fight. He put his... Oh, dear. Oh, Kathy. Kathy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I think, that's going to be discussed when we talk about trauma and how it affects the brain, right? Because that's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing if you have to put hands on someone because of an argument or of a disagreement. Even if you disagree with someone, there's no reason to do that ever, ever. I'm sorry. So those are the things that are going to be upcoming. Every day I'm going to be uploading a video on psychological tricks, on what they are and how to protect yourself from them. Okay? And I just talked to Arlene yesterday. We discussed our next subject and we agreed trauma is where we need to go next. And uh, Kathy, my dad, MD Anderson. MD Anderson. Oh gosh, Kathy, yes. And we're going to talk about PTSD as well. We we kind of touched on it in our last live stream. So if you ever see Arlene in the title, go ahead and watch it. And well, of course, yes, we understand, Kathy. And you're very welcome here. Very welcome. And hopefully we can help you, right? Hopefully we can help you. And that's what we're here for, to help people, to open up people's minds and how society and history has formed our beliefs and what we should look out for and all that good stuff. I'm going to shut up now. But Arlene's schedule is a little chaotic, as you can imagine. Uh, so we will tape at her convenience. Okay. But we're very excited to be producing this for you and to help people. Really help people. And you cannot afford Dr. Knock. I can tell you that. Um, you would not be able to afford her. She's very distinguished, honored, and fabulous career. Of course, my wife Beth's mom was psychologically abusive, and she's not talked to her for 25 years. Yeah. And what makes people abuse other people? What makes people abuse people physically and mentally? Because that's something we're going to be discussing with Arlene, you know. And of course, I'm going to be uploading videos every day, psychological tricks, and um, I just made a playlist, mental health, to help understand mental health and how you can both help yourself and others, right? Control by fear. Yeah, a lot of it is. Hurt people, hurt people. Yeah, the abused becomes the abuser. How many times have we heard that? But I went way over the scheduled time for this live, but I very much enjoyed talking to everybody, and I appreciate everybody just listening and giving their honest opinions. And I think that's what's important. I truly do. Probably the next live stream will be with Arlene. She wants to be called Arlene, everybody. So, and it's weird calling her doctor for me. But she's fantastic, fantastic woman. Very, very intelligent. So I hope to see you again. Thank you, Karis. And thank you, everybody who has participated and listened. Yes, Kathy, please come back and do check out those live streams. and we will have much more coming up, and the playlist. And maybe I'll do a little something on abuse. Okay. Love you guys. Have a great evening. Okay. Bye. Oh, Nicu! Good to see you. I loved your show. Please check out Oh, Nicu. She had a great show last night.